In this episode of Cars from Japan, presented by Cars from Japan, I attempt to both fit in and drive the Honda S660. So the whole purpose of our series Cars from Japan is that I get to drive a whole bunch of cars from Japan that I've never driven before. And this is most certainly one of them, the Honda S660. I guess you could call it the spiritual successor to the Honda Beat, which was another little K-class car convertible. So what is a K-class car? Well, essentially in Japan, K-class cars are really small. This is less than 3.5 meters long, just under 1.5 meters wide. But one of the most important things with K-class cars is that the engine is no more than 660 cc's in displacement. You can probably guess that's why this is called the S660. But this one, obviously, rather than be a little hatchback, is a Targa top sports car. And the whole idea is have a K-class car, but also have a bunch of fun as well. And looking at it, well, for someone who's 6'2", it may not be as much fun, but I reckon it's going to be a whole lot of fun. So let's look over it, check it out, and see if I fit in it. So this particular S660 has the modulo wheels, which are a 15-inch wheel. They actually look pretty big on this. It's actually got Yokohama 8008s on it, so I've got a feeling this thing's going to handle pretty good. It's got some cross-drilled rotors, which are obviously aftermarket, upgraded pads, and it has some blitz coilovers. There actually is a pretty decent tuning scene behind these in Japan, which means you can make them even more fun. So the S660 is mid-engined and rear-wheel drive, which means it is, well, a proper sports car, as they say, right? 3-cylinder turbo, 660 cc, and makes 47 kilowatts. This has an aftermarket air filter on it for lots of whooshy noises. Now, you might not think that 47 kilowatts is a lot, but you have to remember the car only weighs 850 kilos. But with this car, it's not so much about going fast in a straight line. I guess how much fun you can have with your top down, right? Not a lot of storage in the front, but most importantly, it does have a little spot to store the roof in here, so you don't have to leave it in the garage. You can see the blitz coilovers here as well. But yeah, luggage space is all of 0 in one of these, so it is purely for commuting you and another half-size human. So when it comes to the interior, I guess the most important question is, at 6'2", do I fit? Yes. But the question is, am I comfortable? Look, if I was probably 2 inches shorter, it would be fantastic, but my head does get pretty close to this rear roll bar. But if I sit my head a little bit further forward, sit upright, it's okay, but obviously my head's poking out, so my hair's gonna be pretty terrible after a drive. Outside of, I guess, this bit probably being 2 inches too low, the rest of it's actually pretty comfy. It feels very S2000. It's got a 6-speed manual gearbox, which is awesome. And if being a typical Honda, it probably feels pretty good too. Steering wheel, layout, everything is actually really good. The quality of this red and black leather interior is quite nice. Alcantara style or felt on the side here, but overall, even though it probably looks cramped from the outside, it does just feel like an S2000 has just been kind of shrunk a little bit. The only way to find out if I'm comfortable is to probably drive it, right? So let's do that, shall we? Well, Murphy's Law. The very first time that I tried to review a car with a Targa top, it starts raining, but it's only meant to rain for like 20 minutes. But this car's so light and nimble, I don't think the rain's going to affect it too much at the pace we drive. So I will say this, the roof does just fit over my head, but the roof's actually not the problem. It's the roll bar behind my head that I hit if I move my head around too much. So let's get going in this S660 and see what it's like, shall we? The intake air filter is right by my head. So, because it obviously, without the airbox, makes some whooshing noises, it's actually quite comical. I knew getting into this car would be all about the novelty, and yeah, that's certainly proving to be very true. I did get to drive it with the top off for a little while on the way out to our filming area, and yeah, my head sticks out the top if I sit the way I want to sit, so your hair doesn't stay good for very long, that's for sure. So coming into this review, I just thought it was going to be, you know, drive something quirky, a bit of a novelty, have a little bit of fun, have a laugh, and then get over it. But underneath that novelty is actually a great driver's car. Now, we know that Honda make the S2000 and the Civic and Integra Type R, and they know how to make a driver's car. And I was curious, would they put that DNA into this car? And I can say that they have. So the seating position is actually really good. We'll talk about head height later, but how you sit in the car is actually really good. I thought the seats wouldn't be supportive enough, but it's not very far to move to the side of the car anyway, it doesn't really matter. But from a sports car perspective, it actually gets all of that right. Seating position, where everything is. 6-speed gearbox feels fantastic, as you'd expect from a Honda, and the chassis is fantastic. Brakes, obviously they're small, but it's a small car, it's not a lot to pull up, so the brakes work really well. So if you analyse it as a sports car and not a K-class car, it actually still does cut the mustard as a little sports car. Is it as good as the MX-5 and the BRZ and 86? Yes and no. I think yes in a lot of ways, as driver involvement, the feel, etc. Obviously the power might leave some people going, I wish I had a little bit more, but surely there's got to be a way you can tune this thing to have at least another 30 horsepower, and then the thing would be absolutely epic. So overall, yeah, actually enjoy this car beyond the novelty of it. What about some bad things? Well, at 100 k's an hour, it gets really noisy in here with this roof, but below 80, it's fine. The big thing for me though is just height. My head hits the roll bar here on the back. On a gear change it did it, over a bump it did it, and if I had a crash, well, let's not go into that. The other thing it obviously does, if you sit upright where I want to be at speed with the roof off, you just get all the wind basically not just hitting your hair and making your hair look terrible, but it actually gets really noisy. If you kind of put your head down like this and hunch down, it goes away. Now, if I was 5'10", or if Susie was driving this car, Susie would absolutely love this thing. So this is like an awesome car. If you're smaller or your missus is smaller, this is like an awesome little toy for the weekend. So yeah, overall, you get something that is quirky, unique, people look at it, you take it to a car event, it's obviously something different, it's a talking point, but at the same time, it is genuinely fun to drive through a twisty bit of road. And yeah, you kind of get the best of both worlds. You get the quirkiness, the novelty, but you actually get a serious driver's car as well. So overall, Honda S660, yeah, pretty good, pretty good.